Hey everybody, welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike Catalana along with Dan Fetes here in New Orleans. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and we know you're feeling better. The turkey tasted better. Everything went well for the Bills in the victory down here, albeit except for that injury to Tre White. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Dan, let's talk about the way this team responded. They've done it a few times this year. As a team, they really played well.
Yeah, they're resilient. It's exactly what Sean McDermott said. I don't think he wants to have his team have to bounce back after ugly losses, but they did it after the Jacksonville loss. They did it again here after the loss to the Colts. And I think what always impressed me most, they were physical. They were a tough team, and they stuck to the run, Mike. They didn't run the ball incredible, but they were at least tough enough and had the guts and the moxie to keep doing it, and at times it was successful. On the long drive in the second half, it was the difference with a couple of runs by Devin Singletary that started out the third quarter.
Yeah, Dan's talking about the way they ran the ball on a night when Josh Allen throws for 4 touchdowns. You can do both. You can mix it in there, and I do think they played better, and it helped in that way. But you've said it many times. This offense is going to go the way Josh Allen takes them.
We have tried to figure out what feels different about this team this year than it did last year. And today I'm sitting there and I go, they're the same exact team. The defense is better. But I remember saying last year on this channel, on all these videos, I said, this team is going to go as far as Josh Allen takes them. They're still that team that will go as far as Josh Allen takes them. It's still a quarterback-driven league. And guess what? When Josh hasn't played well, we've wanted to blame play calling. We've wanted to blame the lack of balance. Nobody cared about balance last year when Josh was an MVP contender. This is still a quarterback-driven league, and when Josh plays well and doesn't turn the ball over, and he did it a couple times tonight, they still have the best chance to win.
Yeah, he had the 2 turnovers. So we'll go to the negative part here just briefly. Terrible decision on the first one. He had good protection on that play. He looked, and he forced it to Diggs, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was the one time he really forced it to him.
The one time.
Yes. Okay, he forced it. Bad decision. They lost the ball. The second one, I do put a little on Josh. It's got to be time, circumstance.
Yeah.
You know, you're driving late, needing points. Got to feel that pressure. He did take a hit. Guy hit his arm. I understand. Everybody on Twitter
Unreal interception.
reminded me to hold on to the ball.
Unbelievable job.
But he put it in harm's way, getting hit. And that moment, I think he's got to be more aware.
That was the moment where I kept thinking, this drive has to end in a kick.
Yeah.
And that's what Josh has said, whether it's a punt, whether it's an extra point or a field goal, and it didn't. And it was backbreaking after a penalty called back a Dawson Knox touchdown. It was the epitome of what we've talked on this show in the Buffalo Plus live shows, that it's one bad penalty and then it spirals into worse. And that's what it was. But they came back in the third quarter.
Yeah, they did. And look, we're not going to emphasize the negative here because Josh was really good and Stephon Diggs was so good, and you guys have all seen it. The move he put on the Saints on that touchdown was subtle and spectacular at the same time.
So I didn't get a chance to see it live. It was right in front of my face, but I just thought he ran a route. And my phone's blowing up by people going, did you see the route by Diggs? That was unfair, all of these things. Josh said the play call and the route was, Stephon, get open, and Josh throw it to him. Unreal route that only a few guys in the league can possibly even attempt to make. Stephon does it. And again, it was one of those times where you needed a play, you went to your guy that's the playmaker.
All right, there were a couple other ones. He had a rope across the middle, nice catch by Beasley for a first down. He had a back shoulder throw to Sanders on the down sideline, was beautiful, and he got the ball to Dawson Knox, and he made those plays. What I wanted to talk to you about was the 4th and 2 call by McDermott to go for it. Now, I asked McDermott about it. I asked Josh about it. I asked Dawson Knox about it because I think offensively, Sean McDermott's been coaching a little scared. He punted against Jacksonville when they were in the plus territory, and then he went for the field goal down 17 last week. This time, could have kicked the field goal, went for it. Allen executed the play great. Finds Knox, touchdown. And I do believe it's a show of faith for the coach to let him go for it.
And I think you saw that, too, on the sidelines. Sean was very animated today throughout the entire game. Pre-game, in the huddle with the offensive linemen, in between whistles, clap. We know he claps, but it was different. It was a different level of intensity this week.
How was he clapping?
Very, very intense clapping. I just think this was a game where they make a statement on national TV in prime time after 2 embarrassing losses in the last 3 games to come out.
Yeah. By the way, they're fixing the field here, if you can hear the noise. And I believe this one guy's following us around here on the field, but we're going to keep going. I got to get to Tre White. Look, by the time you see this, maybe we'll know a little bit more. I don't have a good feeling about it. A lot of people do, but you had a perspective of it down on the field.
Yeah.
You know, we're not the doctors analyzing the injury, but you saw the reaction.
Well, I saw the reaction, and it's never good when the player puts his hands on his helmet. And then when Sean McDermott came out, it was probably about just 20 yards away from me on my sidelines, and Sean kind of held his hand for a second too. And Sean comes out and, and is always checking on players, but it was different there. Trey was visibly, emotionally upset as he walked into the blue tent. When he walked into the Bills locker room, he walked right past me. He had his towel wrapped around his head. He was upset about something. And again, we're not the doctors. He grabbed the back of his left knee. It doesn't look good. And it was just one of those hard things where Trey is a guy coming back here to Louisiana in his home was really tough to see.
Yeah, and Sean McDermott was asked about it. He said, I care about all my players equally. And I really do think he feels that way. Yeah. But Tre White was his first pick. Tre White's the guy he built his defense around. Yeah. This team's going to try to make a run at a Super Bowl. And look, we don't know if Trey's going to be back. It doesn't look great. Right. Now, we might get good news that he's back in a certain period of time, but I think that's going to be tough to see him back on the field and, not to see him back on the field if that's the case. Dane Jackson came out, appeared to play okay. I wouldn't read too much into it from this game. Trevor Siemian
is bad.
He's just bad. This offense, look, they're banged up too. Yeah. They're losing their running backs, tight end, wide receivers. They're bad. Trevor Siemian's not a starter in this league, but Dane Jackson's going to have to play against, starting with Mac Jones and then Tom Brady and whatever it is. If he's got to play, he's got to be ready.
Yeah, and Trevor Siemian's bad, but Ed Oliver and Mario Addison changed that game early on with their pressure. Ed Oliver loves playing on Turkey Day. That guy has feasted on both times.
Okay, so we got to talk about what he said about playing. I asked him about Thanksgiving, and he said, well, the one game was closer to home, was in Dallas, and then this, because Houston, it's not too far from Houston. And what did he say?
That he had to get a ton of tickets for both families for both games. 40 tickets, he said, so I pretty much played for free because I didn't want to waste my money with my family coming.
Yeah.
Ed Oliver and Mario Addison should talk every single day.
Yeah.
Insightful things. Mario Addison, we asked, defensive line, the way they responded. Early stops. Mario had a sack on 3rd down and then also had the stop on 4th and 2. And Mario said, and we can say this because it's YouTube, because I've been in this league a long time. I've gotten my ass kicked and I've kicked a lot of ass. Yeah. But no matter what happens, you have to flush it and move on. And I thought that was the veteran leadership that I wanted to see from this team. Whether it was Jerry Hughes playing well or somebody stepping up. You talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Do the players have a meeting? Do you get together? Because they've been talking about all of these things about how great they are and then haven't been performing like it. And talk is cheap, and I think that's what the players started to realize. And Sean McDermott said the message that they sent was heard.
Yeah.
They got the message, the way they played.
I really do believe that this team is wired a certain way. Mario Addison said, did you have a talk with the whole team? He's like, well, I talk to him all the time. I talk to my group. I think Sean McDermott is confident that goes on all the time.
Yep.
Hyde and Poyer are the way they are, very well respected. That group, the D linemen, another group.
Yeah.
I think the O-line maybe needs a little encouragement, and you did hear in the postgame, a lot of guys cry. Oh, by the way, the other thing I wanted to say is multiple people mentioning blocks downfield by Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
And that's a place he comes in. That helps the run game. Yep. That helps a guy instead of a catch, get to the end zone. So I do think the O-line in general maybe needs a little more pumping up than the rest of the group. But in total, I think this team has the mechanism in place to weather bad moments.
I want to wrap up this game before we look ahead as to where we go. But I think we need to take a little bit of a pat on the back for ourselves. Yep. We talked about before the game on our live shows on the YouTube channel, I said they needed to force the ball to Stephon Diggs. I said they needed to get him in the action because it's different when he got in the action. 2 catches on the opening drive. They marched down the field and scored over 7 catches or over 6.5. I don't know if he had 7 or 8 because it hit my over for my bet. That's all I cared about. And Mike, you talked about getting Josh in the running game.
Yep.
And he did. And while it maybe feels like Singletary and Breida tore it up or had success, Josh still with 43 rushing yards, 1 more than Singletary. So Singletary's the leading rusher, Josh was the leading rusher for most of the game.
Yeah, I said over 9.5. He had 8. I was looking for a couple of kneel downs to go over. Didn't happen because they put Mitchell in the game. But at the same time, I thought Allen's runs were impactful.
Absolutely.
Got the first downs, moved the chains. I thought they were good. I thought he ran the way we want to see him run.
Yep.
A couple were called, but it was mostly out of the pocket, making a play and running it and getting it taken care of. And I thought that was good, and he got the yardage. They did run 32 times in this game, so you're talking about 24 for the backs, which is a lot for this team. But on a night when Diggs was Diggs, they got the ball to the other receivers. Josh threw for 4 touchdowns, and they won easily. So in total, outside of the Tre White thing, that's just going to bother everybody, and it should. And hopefully, again, the news is different. This ended up being a really good night for him.
This was the Bills that we were used to seeing. This was the Bills team. This was the type of performance that we're expecting.
Yeah.
Expectations are dangerous, but this is what we expect to see out of this Bills team.
So here's what you can expect. Bills get a few days off. They'll be back next week. Keep in mind the game is a week from Monday, and it's Hoodie and now Mac.
McCorkle.
Really?
His middle name's McCorkle.
Well, let's just call him McCorkle. Mac is coming to town. That's a Monday night. It's what you want. Root against him on Sunday if you want. We'll see what ends up happening, but it's going to be fun. It'll be more fun for the Bills after this win. That's going to do it for us. For Dan Fetes and Jenna Cottrell, I'm Mike Catalana. Please subscribe, like, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.